It began with a Christmas arrangement so unusual that even seasoned royal correspondents struggled to explain it. Behind palace doors, conversations reportedly intensified after observers noticed subtle changes surrounding the king's holiday plans. What initially appeared to be a minor scheduling adjustment soon evolved into a mystery involving tradition, symbolism, and a decision that many insiders believed carried consequences far beyond a single festive appearance. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the reports seemed insignificant. Every year, royal Christmas celebrations generate endless discussion about schedules, guest lists, appearances, and traditions that have been observed for generations. Minor adjustments happen regularly and rarely attract serious attention. Yet this situation felt different from the beginning. According to growing speculation among royal commentators, there appeared to be an unusual level of caution surrounding the king's holiday plans. Questions were being asked, but very few answers were being offered. What caught the attention of observers was not a dramatic announcement or a public disagreement. Instead, it was the silence. Palace officials reportedly maintained their usual position of refusing to comment on private arrangements, but the absence of clarification only encouraged further curiosity. Royal correspondents who typically dismissed holiday rumors as seasonal, speculation suddenly found themselves examining every detail more closely. Something about the situation seemed to suggest there was more happening behind closed doors than anyone was prepared to admit publicly. As whispers began spreading, attention quickly focused on Queen Camilla's expected role during the Christmas period. For years, appearances involving senior members of the royal family have carried enormous symbolic significance. Where individuals stand, who accompanies whom, and which traditions are followed often become subjects of intense public analysis. Because of that history, even a subtle change can trigger widespread debate. In this case, speculation reportedly grew around whether a long-established expectation had, quietly, been altered. The mystery deepened as commentators offered competing interpretations. Some suggested the changes were entirely practical and connected to broader holiday planning. Others believed the arrangement reflected something much more significant, potentially tied to larger discussions taking place within the institution itself. Every theory seemed to create even more questions. If nothing unusual was happening, why had the speculation gained so much momentum? And if there was a deeper reason behind the decision, why was nobody willing to address it directly? Meanwhile, public curiosity continued to escalate. Social media discussions expanded. Royal analysts debated possible explanations. Longtime observers began comparing the situation to previous moments when seemingly minor palace decisions eventually revealed deeper institutional concerns. The story was no longer about Christmas alone. It was becoming a conversation about symbolism, perception, and the messages that royal decisions send both inside and outside the monarchy. What made the situation particularly fascinating was the growing belief that the arrangement represented more than a logistical adjustment. Many observers felt it pointed toward a larger issue that had not yet fully emerged into public view. The further people looked, the more the mystery seemed to deepen. Because according to growing speculation, the real story was never about positioning, schedules, or appearances. It was about understanding what may have prompted the change in the first place. But the real significance of the decision wasn't where Camilla would stand. It was why the arrangement reportedly changed at all. Royal Christmas celebrations have never been simple family gatherings. For generations, every appearance, every procession, and every carefully planned detail has carried symbolic meaning. That long history helps explain why even the smallest deviation from tradition can trigger intense scrutiny. This time, however, observers believed they were witnessing something far more significant than a routine adjustment to holiday protocol. To understand why the speculation surrounding the king's Christmas arrangements attracted so much attention, it is necessary to understand what Christmas means within the world of the monarchy. For most families, the holiday represents a private occasion. For the royal family, it has always served a second purpose. It is one of the few annual moments when the institution publicly prints itself a symbol of continuity, stability, and unity. Every appearance is examined, every interaction is interpreted. Every detail becomes part of a larger narrative about the state of the crown itself. That reality has been shaped by decades of tradition at Sandringham. Generations of royals have participated in carefully observed customs that have become familiar not only to the British public, but to audiences around the world. These traditions create a sense of permanence in a rapidly changing era. They remind people that while governments rise and fall and political debates come and go, certain royal rituals continue unchanged. Because of that, any noticeable alteration immediately invites questions. One of the most closely watched aspects of these occasions has always been positioning. Who walks beside whom, who receives prominence, who appears at key moments. To outsiders, such details may seem insignificant. Within royal culture, however, symbolism often carries enormous weight. Positioning can reflect status, responsibility, public messaging, or even broader institutional priorities. That is why observers reportedly became so interested in suggestions that established expectations might have been adjusted. As media attention intensified, commentators began revisiting historical examples where seemingly minor ceremonial changes later proved to have deeper significance. Some pointed to previous transitions within the monarchy. Others referenced moments when public appearances subtly reflected changing relationships or shifting priorities behind palace walls. Whether those comparisons were fair or not, they contributed to a growing belief that this Christmas arrangement deserved closer examination than a routine scheduling matter would normally receive. The fascination was not driven solely by curiosity about individuals. It was also driven by the public's enduring interest in what royal symbolism communicates. The monarchy operates through tradition as much as through official statements. Often, what is left unsaid attracts as much attention as what is openly declared. In this case, the absence of a clear explanation encouraged speculation to flourish. Every theory seemed to generate another. Every discussion seemed to uncover a new possibility. Soon, major media outlets and royal analysts found themselves examining the situation from multiple angles. Was the arrangement purely practical? Was it connected to changing priorities within the institution? Or was it intended to communicate something more meaningful about the king's vision for the future? Nobody appeared to possess definitive answers, yet the questions themselves continued gaining momentum. What made the situation especially compelling was the growing perception that understanding the arrangement required understanding the person at the center of it. Because while Christmas traditions and ceremonial symbolism provided important context, many observers increasingly believed the real story rested with King Charles himself and the reasoning behind the decisions being attributed to him. As experts examined the historical context, attention began shifting toward the reports surrounding Charles himself. According to growing speculation, the controversy intensified when reports suggested that King Charles had personally addressed questions surrounding the arrangement. Whether every detail was accurate remained uncertain, but the possibility that the king himself had offered an explanation immediately transformed palace whispers into a national talking point. Suddenly, the focus moved from rumor to motive. Until that moment, much of the discussion had revolved around observation and interpretation. Commentators examined traditions, analysts debated symbolism, royal correspondents searched for clues hidden within ceremonial details. But reports suggesting that King Charles had personally become involved changed the entire nature of the conversation. If the king had indeed addressed questions surrounding the arrangement, many believed there must be a reason significant enough to justify his attention. The mystery was no longer simply about what had changed, it was about why it had changed. According to circulating speculation, questions reportedly began reaching individuals close to royal operations as curiosity intensified. Observers wanted to know whether the arrangement reflected a practical decision, a symbolic message, or something deeper connected to the king's evolving vision for the monarchy. While no definitive public explanation emerged, reports of private discussions allegedly fueled the perception that an important decision had been made somewhere behind palace walls. That possibility alone was enough to elevate the story from seasonal curiosity into a subject of national fascination. As rumors spread, different interpretations emerged almost immediately. Some believed the reported explanation reflected a desire to place institutional priorities above personal considerations. Others argued that it may have been connected to broader efforts to modernize public perceptions of the monarchy during a period of transition. Still others suggested the arrangement was far less dramatic than commentators assumed. Yet despite these competing theories, none succeeded in reducing public interest. In fact, every explanation seemed to generate even more questions. Palace insiders and royal commentators reportedly found themselves discussing not only the decision itself, but what it might reveal about Charles's leadership style. Since ascending to the throne, the king has faced the difficult challenge of balancing continuity with change. Every choice is examined through that lens. Every adjustment becomes part of a larger narrative about the direction of his reign. Because of that reality, even a single Christmas arrangement could quickly become symbolic of broader themes involving responsibility, priorities, and the future of the institution. The media attention surrounding the controversy soon expanded beyond traditional royal coverage. Newspapers, television commentators, and online platforms all began exploring possible implications. Public fascination grew precisely because the situation appeared to involve more than holiday protocol. It touched on questions that audiences have always found compelling: how decisions are made, who influences those decisions, and what those decisions reveal about relationships at the highest levels of public life. Yet, despite the growing discussion, certainty remained frustratingly elusive. The more analysts attempted to explain the reported reasoning, the more complicated the picture appeared to become. Every answer seemed partial, every theory left important gaps. Instead of resolving the controversy, the alleged explanation appeared to deepen it. What initially seemed like a straightforward question about Christmas planning was gradually evolving into a much larger conversation about leadership, symbolism, and institutional priorities. And as that conversation expanded, attention began moving beyond the arrangement itself, because many observers started wondering whether the story reflected something much deeper than a single holiday decision. Yet the explanation only created more questions than answers, and those questions soon reached deeper into the institution itself. Throughout royal history, some of the most difficult decisions have emerged when personal relationships collide with institutional responsibilities. The monarchy often demands sacrifices that would be unimaginable in ordinary life. As discussions surrounding the Christmas arrangement intensified, many observers believed the controversy reflected exactly that struggle between private affection and public duty. That tension has followed the monarchy for centuries. Behind every public ceremony, every carefully observed tradition, and every symbol of continuity lies a reality that few people ever experience. Senior royals are expected to balance two identities at the same time. They are family members with personal loyalties, emotions, and relationships. Yet they are also guardians of an institution that often requires them to place those feelings second. When those two responsibilities move in different directions, difficult choices become unavoidable. As speculations surrounding the Christmas arrangement continued to grow, many commentators began viewing the situation through that historical lens. The discussion was no longer centered solely on who stood where during a holiday event. Instead, it became a broader conversation about the burdens attached to leadership. If reports surrounding Charles's reasoning were even partially accurate, some observers believed he may have found himself navigating one of the oldest challenges faced by any monarch, balancing personal considerations against what he believed best served the institution. History offers countless examples of similar dilemmas. Again and again, monarchs have been forced to make decisions that carried emotional costs. Some choices strengthened family bonds but weakened public confidence. Others protected the institution while creating private disappointment. There is rarely a perfect solution. Every path carries consequences. Every decision leaves someone dissatisfied. The burden of leadership often means accepting criticism regardless of the outcome. For King Charles, the pressure surrounding such decisions may be particularly intense. He governs during a period of extraordinary scrutiny, where every action is analyzed instantly and every symbolic gesture becomes part of a larger public narrative. Modern audiences demand transparency, while still expecting the monarchy to preserve its traditions. They expect authenticity while also expecting stability. Satisfying both expectations simultaneously is nearly impossible. That reality has created an environment where even minor adjustments can generate enormous public debate. As the controversy gained momentum, questions regarding royal priorities became increasingly prominent. What message was being communicated? What values were being emphasized? And how should personal relationships fit within the broader responsibilities of the crown? Commentators offered different answers, but the fact that these questions were being asked at all demonstrated how deeply the story had resonated with the public imagination. Meanwhile, scrutiny continued arriving from every direction. Royal analysts examined historical precedents, media outlets explored possible interpretations. Supporters and critics alike debated what the arrangement might signify. The further the discussion expanded, the clearer it became that this was no longer simply a Christmas story. It had become a reflection of the difficult realities that accompany royal leadership and the sacrifices often required to preserve institutional stability. Yet, even if duty provided a possible explanation for the choices being discussed, it could not eliminate the human dimension of the controversy. Because behind every decision, no matter how carefully considered, are real relationships affected by its consequences, and those consequences were beginning to attract as much attention as the decision itself. But while duty may explain difficult choices, it does not prevent emotional consequences from following them. As speculation spread, reactions reportedly emerged from every corner of the royal landscape. Supporters, critics, commentators, and long-time observers all seemed to interpret the situation differently. What began as a discussion about Christmas protocol had evolved into a broader debate about influence, perception, and the future image of the monarchy under Charles's reign. The further the story travelled, the less it seemed to be about a single Christmas arrangement, and the more it became a reflection of the pressures facing the modern monarchy itself. Public reaction intensified as royal watchers offered competing interpretations of what the reported decision might mean. Some viewed it as a practical adjustment that had been exaggerated by media attention. Others believed it reflected deeper priorities within the institution. Regardless of which explanation people accepted, one fact remained undeniable. The controversy had captured public imagination far beyond what anyone initially expected. Questions about Queen Camilla's future role quickly became part of the conversation. Not because definitive answers existed, but because uncertainty often creates its own momentum. Analysts debated possible implications while commentators compared the situation to previous moments in royal history when symbolic decisions appeared to signal broader shifts. Every comparison fueled new discussion. Every theory attracted new scrutiny. What had started as a seasonal story was gradually transforming into a debate about leadership, influence, and the direction of the crown during a period of significant change. Yet beneath the headlines and speculation existed a much deeper reality. Royal controversies rarely remain confined to the surface. They often expose competing responsibilities, personal sacrifices, and institutional pressures that would otherwise remain hidden from public view. As more interpretations emerged, many observers began viewing the Christmas controversy as part of a larger conversation about how the monarchy adapts while preserving the traditions that define it. King Charles, like every monarch before him, faces the challenge of balancing continuity with change, personal relationships with public expectations, and symbolism with practical realities. Those pressures help explain why the issue gained so much momentum. It touched questions that extend far beyond any single event. How should a modern monarchy evolve? What role should symbolism play in maintaining public trust? And how can leaders navigate personal loyalties while protecting an institution that millions of people view as a national symbol? These questions resonated because they spoke directly to the future of the crown itself. As attention increasingly shifted toward what lies ahead, the controversy began to take on a different meaning. It was no longer simply about Christmas, appearances, or protocol. It became a reflection of a monarchy navigating transition while carrying the weight of history on its shoulders. And amid all the speculation, one larger question continued to linger over the entire discussion. Amid the noise, however, a larger question remained unanswered. What did the controversy ultimately reveal about the crown itself? And as attention turned toward the future, the meaning of the controversy became clearer than ever. Certain moments become larger than the events that created them. They evolve into symbols that shape how a reign is remembered. For many observers, the Christmas controversy appeared to become one of those moments, less about a single arrangement and more about the principles, priorities, and legacy King Charles hopes to leave behind. What began as a question about a Christmas appearance ultimately became something far greater. It evolved into a discussion about duty, symbolism, leadership, and the difficult choices that accompany public service. Whether every reported detail proves accurate or not, the controversy demonstrated how quickly even the smallest royal decision can grow into a story that captures worldwide attention. As the debate unfolded, many observers found themselves looking beyond the headlines and focusing instead on what the situation might reveal about the future of the monarchy. For King Charles, every major decision is now viewed through the lens of legacy. The public is not simply watching a monarch manage daily responsibilities. They are watching a reign take shape in real time. Every symbolic choice becomes part of a larger story about what values will define this chapter of royal history. Throughout the controversy, one theme continued to surface repeatedly: the challenge of balancing tradition with a changing world. The monarchy survives because it preserves continuity, yet it must also adapt to modern expectations. That balance is rarely easy to achieve. Decisions that appear simple on the surface often carry layers of meaning beneath them. As a result, public fascination grew not because people were interested only in Christmas arrangements, but because they were trying to understand what those arrangements might represent. The discussion also highlighted the extraordinary importance of symbolism within royal life. A monarchy communicates not only through speeches and official announcements, but through traditions, ceremonies, and choices that reinforce its identity. That is why even a seemingly small controversy can generate such widespread interest. People instinctively understand that symbols matter. They shape perception, influence public confidence, and contribute to how history remembers both individuals and institutions. At its heart, this story became a reminder that leadership often requires difficult decisions. It requires balancing personal relationships against public responsibilities, managing expectations while protecting traditions, and accepting that every choice will be examined from countless different perspectives. Whether supporters agreed with the reported decisions or not, many acknowledged the pressures that accompany the role itself. As attention gradually shifted toward the future, the broader lesson became clearer. The controversy was never solely about one event, one arrangement, or one holiday season. It was about responsibility, legacy, and the enduring challenge of protecting an institution that has existed for generations. Because in the end, royal history is often shaped not by grand speeches or dramatic announcements, but by the quiet decisions that reveal where loyalty, duty, and legacy truly stand. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.